Okay, this video is going to walk through how to replace the impeller in a Polaris booster pump. This is a PB4-60. It's a later model, as you can tell from the front design. It has these swoosh marks. So why might you think you need to replace the impeller? Well, you can't tell, but it's running, so the pump is running, but my cleaner is not moving. So let's take a look. Okay, it's a little quieter out here, so you can hear me better. And I meant to do this on a warm, sunny day. It's cold and cloudy here, but hey, I got a day job and I only have a weekend to catch up on stuff like this. So my booster pump is on, everything's circulating, but as you can see, my little Polaris, I think it's a 280 model, it's not moving in the pool. It is completely dead. And there's lots of reasons that can be. There could be something broken in the machine. There could be leakage in your tubes. The filters, like this is a filter here, can be clogged. But I started from the source and narrowed it down. So the problem is, where this connects here into the jet, if I were to take this off, this should be high pressure coming out from that booster pump. This should really be just gushing out. And when I put my hand over it, there's a bubble there, see? I can barely, I mean, there is water coming out, but it's very low pressure, which is not going to be enough to power this unit. So I think it's my impeller, so let's take a look. One other point I want to make. I meant to put this early in the video. Maybe I can edit this to be at the beginning. This, out of all my equipment here, like all this stuff is expensive, right? The heater, this whisper flow jet, this cartridge filter. It's like, but it turns out these Polaris, PB4-60, these booster pumps are a very solid, reliable model, and they're cheap. They're $325 lately as I looked online to purchase them, not including shipping. So as you look at your expenses and what it's going to cost to do this, and if you get someone to help you, if you get a service company to come out or not, you need to weigh and see if someone's charging you $100 an hour to work on your pool, and this is only $325, you need to weigh, like, at what point do you just buy a new unit? I think it might just be the impeller, and I bought a seal kit for it too, and the total for all is $50, so I'm willing to risk $50 to see if it's the impeller or not. But if it's something bigger like this, I don't know if it's something bigger or not, but if it is, I just have to probably just buy a whole new unit, then try to buy the parts and have the labor to put it back in. So I wanted to point that out, and what else? There was something else I wanted to point out. I forgot, so if I remember later, I'll record it. And I did remember the point I wanted to make. The other item I want to mention here is, so this is a reliable, solid unit that Polaris makes. Why would the impeller go out? Well, I'll show you the part later when I get it. The impeller is actually not like a flexible rubber like other impellers I've seen in engines are like they're rubber or soft. This is actually a really hard unit in here. So you're probably asking yourself, why would that impeller ever fail? And it probably would last the life of this unit. But here where I live in Central Texas recently in 2021, we had a really bad freeze. This was I had lots of damage, but from what I understand, and I'll see when I take off the face here, is that you could have impeller damage because the water froze, then you try to turn it on later, and the shaft that goes into the impeller might have broke the plastic. I don't know exactly what, but that's the only reason I think I have an issue here is because we had a really bad freeze, and that might have damaged the impeller so that it's not pumping or circulating water. We'll find out when we take it apart. So the first thing to do is shut off all the electricity here to the machines, including the pump. You can do that on your panel here. You can put it in service mode, but to prevent me getting shocked as I work on this, you also want to find out where the fuse box is. And I've already marked the one that's blue. It maps to this booster pump. The other thing about mine is when I saw other videos online about this, other units have like flexible pipe to go in and out here. I have what's called a plumbed in fixture. From what I researched, I should be able to unbolt this, I forgot what the front of this face is called. It's got a weird name, but I should be able to unbolt these. I'm not a plumber, by the way, just a disclaimer here. I'm a weekend mechanic, I guess. I should be able to undo these bolts. I researched these should be 1/2-inch bolts. And I should be able to move the unit out, away. So keep the plumbed in face here and move this back. We'll see how easy that is. So that's my next step. First take the drain plug. There's a drain plug here at the bottom of this. It's like a VOLUTE. I gotta look up the name. It's bothering me. I forgot the name. Anyway, it's down here. Looks like this. Take that out and let the water drain. Then proceed. It is a 1/2-inch. I got my 1/2-inch wrench. Where'd my wrench go? I put it down somewhere, but these are all 1/2-inch size, and I started taking them off. And it's real easy. They're not on there super tight because it's plastic. You don't want to crack the plastic. So start that. Okay, so far everything's going as planned. It's actually going easier than I thought. Sometimes these things take twice as long. So I took the 6 bolts out. These are stainless steel 1/2-inch. No problem. To separate, and you can see the plumbing is still, the face of this is still plumbed. I didn't, luckily don't crack that or break that. I just had to jiggle with 2 hands, just jiggle this a little bit to pull it away. Now, I didn't do anything. So as soon as I pulled it away, this impeller just fell out. And I knew that was not correct. So if you look at this impeller, well, let's take a look at it. So that should not fall off the shaft like that. So I don't know if I'll compare it to the new one. I don't know if it cracked or got loose. Maybe I could even reuse this. I don't know. But that should be attached to this. Can you see this? It should be attached to this drive. And it's not, so that's a problem. So let me look at that next. Okay, I'm comparing the old and the new impeller. So I ordered the new one online, and it's a official, it's a Polaris brand impeller. It says Polaris on it. And I'm comparing it to the old one. So a few things I noticed right away. So obviously this, this nut and this threaded screw on the back, that's not here, so probably stripped out in the old one. But it's also like, this is thicker if you, well, the diameter, let's first, I checked the diameters. It's hard to do this with one hand. The diameter is about the same, but the thickness, the new one over, the new one here, sorry, new one on the left is thicker. It actually feels more durable than this old one. And also, the old one has these long, it looks like where the water comes in here, it's a longer slope, I guess, compared to these that are shorter. I have the newer Polaris pump model. There's an old one and a new one, and I specifically looked up, this is supposed to be for the new one. I hope it's not the old one, but I'll find out when I put it all together. So, but yeah, you can see where this is supposed to attach to the shaft on the motor. It's no longer there. It's stripped off. So now I'm going to show you how to, I'm going to show you the next step. Okay, the next step is on the back of this unit. Do you see this little plastic cover, like that plastic nut? Or is it metal? It might be metal. This is supposed to come off, and you'll be able to get access here to the shaft from the back. And where I researched online, it looks like you can use a pair of pliers to get this off, so I'll try to pry that off. Then, to get this old one off, I'm going to need, so I'll have to get a set of maybe channel lock pliers, but a big set of pliers here, and hold this in place while I hold the back with like a wrench or screw. I'll show you that. So you hold the shaft here back, fixed position, while you try to twist this off. It should come off counterclockwise. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. Okay, this cap on the back came off really easy. So it's just plastic. And if it's been sitting for a long time, you'll need to turn it with a tool. You can see it's just plastic, and it says right on the shaft access, which is what it provides. And there is the shaft we're going to use to either put a slot like a screwdriver or a wrench. I'll probably put a wrench on there, a 1/2 inch, to hold it in place while I spin off the other end. The tools you can use for this, a set of channel lock pliers will be fine, more than plenty. Again, don't put a lot of pressure, it's just plastic. It comes off pretty easy. But if you happen to have a socket set, I tested it, and this is a, this is a 15/16 inch socket. So if you have a socket set, that'll fit the, that will fit right in here. So if you have to get it off that way. But again, you don't need hardly any pressure for this. It's on there, don't crack or break it while you spin that off. Okay, so the next step is I'm going to get, do I have my, how come I don't have anything? Oh, here it is. Sorry, I'm not very organized. So I'm going to take this 1/2 inch wrench, and what you can do is you can, see how that fits right on there? I'm going to hold that in place while with another hand I'm going to take those channel lock pliers and try to just spin that off the shaft. We'll see if this works. I'll try to get a stand to show you. If not, I'll just talk through it later. Okay, I'm about to take off the stripped off old tip of the impeller here. I'm going to use a set of channel lock pliers to grab the tip here. And this is the same 1/2 inch wrench that was used to take off these bolts. Those clever Polaris engineers, they kept the size the same, so you only need one wrench. So I've already started it. This is going really easy. It's actually it's one of the easier projects I've done. If I can do this, you guys can do this. So what you'll do is, on the shaft side, you want to get a lock on that shaft here. So fit that wrench on there to hold this in place. And then with your channel lock pliers, get a grip on that tip there where the impeller was, and just, you want to hold this in place and just rotate this. And once you get it started, you should be able to get the rest of it off like this. I can't see, so I hope it's coming off. Feels like it's coming off. Alright, so that is, I guess, the rest of the impeller. So sure enough, as I thought before I took it apart, the impeller, it's stripped off for whatever reason. I think it's because of the freeze. It might have been an old age, but I think it was because of the freeze. So let me get to this part next. Okay, let's compare what we pulled out before and after. So I bought this kit online. It's a seal kit for the Polaris booster pump that I have. So give these guys a shout. It comes with a brand new one of these and one of these. Now this is supposed to be a seal or like a bearing on the back of the shaft, like towards the other end where the wrench was. I'm not dealing with that right now. This is the part where the impeller fits in. So you may be wondering, okay, which side goes where, because I had the same thing. So when I pulled the old one out, this old tip that was sheared off on the impeller. So also, just in case you're curious, it turns out there's, well, the video, like the water, it looks like the water inlet goes in the center here. So like when this was attached, it was attached like that. And if you look here, you can see where like the water looks like it would be in there, and then the impeller pushes it out here when it spins. And so, of course, that broke off, right? So when I take this apart, there's two sides, right? There's this shiny plastic side and this rubber side, which it creates like a seal around the impeller part here. So that's the part you want facing out. and this shiny part here. Now look, now let me show you older. Let me finish that sentence. And this part goes on the shaft, and this points away from the shaft. Now, if you get confused, there's a few things you can do. One is like this fits in, like when I took it off, it fit right in, and you can hold it and it stays in place, right? If you somehow got confused and put it on the other end, like this, it doesn't stay in. So it just comes right out. So there's nothing holding it here. So this is the end the impeller goes in, where this rubber washer is. Now, I compared the old one and the new one, and actually those guys in their kit did a good job. It's hard to see here, but like that rubber gasket, it actually is, it says John Crane, whoever company or whoever that is, but it's like the same, like many years later, it's the same part. And on the back, now obviously there's a big difference here, right? The new one, this isn't all torn up and eaten, so that's not going to keep as good of a seal. This is much better. So obviously I'm going to get rid of this one and use this new, I forget the name of it, but it slips between, it goes on the shaft between the impeller and the motor. So here's the new shiny impeller, and it looks like this will go on the shaft, and then this, that's kind of interesting. So that, I'm a little curious now, because this is not sticking like the old one. It was like fixed on there. I'll try this out. I got nothing to lose, but I'm hoping this is the right part for this impeller. Like I said earlier, when I took it apart, like these impellers don't look the same, and this is supposed to be the newer model. I hope this is the right one. So I'll put it together, I guess, and find out, because it does thread on. If nothing else, this does thread onto the shaft. So if nothing else, it'll be on the shaft and it should turn. So we'll find out when I put it back together. Okay, unfortunately, this project has come to an end. And the reason that is because even though I went online and ordered this new part, and I specifically looked up and filtered on new Polaris pool pumps for my model, they sent me, this is an old impeller. I went down to the pool store because just so you know, I went to put this on and it was rubbing. It didn't seem right. It wasn't spinning freely when I put it on the shaft. It was just, didn't seem like it was spinning freely. I went down to the pool shop, my local pool shop, and the guy told me, sure enough, this is the thin one is the newer version impeller, and this one with this brass nut is the older one. And so basically this is too thick, doesn't fit on right. I'm going to leave that seller a bad review when I get done with this, because I specifically ordered the newer impeller and they sent me the old one. So I got to put everything back together. The only hope I may have is if I can somehow, I'm thinking maybe JB weld this, if I can get it centered perfectly. That would be a short-term solution, not a long-term solution. But I don't know if that'll work or not. I'll try it out and see. If JB Weld does work, I'll keep recording. But otherwise, it kind of sucks because, you know, I thought this would be the one project. Every house project I have has got some issue or problem, and I thought this one was going really smooth. But I got to step back and see about alternatives. Okay, I don't know if this will work or not, but I don't have a lot of choices right now. So I'm using JB Weld, and there's lots of videos on how to make JB Weld. You basically take the two putty mixtures, stir them up, and so they mix, and then I applied it with a toothpick around the edge of the hole here where this part broke off. Now, this is the impeller, I guess, whatever the, well, that's the thread, that's where the nut would hold in here. There's a lot of torque here when this turns. It turns fast, so I don't know how well this will hold up, but JB Weld's pretty strong stuff, and the worst case scenario is if it breaks off, I'm no worse than I was before because it was broken off to begin with. So, and I have to try to set it very even so it's not lopsided. So when it spins
without being wobbly. So gonna give this a try. We'll see what happens after everything dries and I hook it up. Okay, weather is a little better today. It's the next day. I put the JB weld on this Polaris PB4-60 impeller, and it's all hardened there. I think the directions on JB weld are to let it cure, set and cure for 24 hours. It's pretty close to 24 hours. You want to make sure on the inside, the front here where the water goes in, you don't want too much glue getting in the way of the water. Can you see that? Going to those little impeller channels, whatever those are. Okay, so that looks alright. We'll see how it holds up. I mean, supposedly this JB weld is strong, but we'll see when this is rotating on a shaft. The other thing that may happen is it could wobble a bit. I just spotted this with my eye vision to try to put it on as even as possible, but it could be slightly out of round. I just want to make sure when I apply it, when I put it back on the shaft, I'm going to spit it and make sure it doesn't rub against the housing really bad anywhere. And give it a shot, because this will have to hold up. And again, this is this is temporary. This is not a permanent solution. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so it looks like this might work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin the shaft on this side. So you put the wrench on here, and then you're going to rotate that clockwise, and you want to see as that impeller spins, doesn't rub, don't hear any noises. Looks okay, so I did a pretty good job spotting that. Doesn't appear to be, let's get a view from the top here. So as that rotates, you can see that impeller is pretty even, doesn't wobble hardly any. It keeps the same distance as it goes around. And you just hand tighten this on the front. When you spin it on that shaft, don't like put a, there's no place to put a wrench here, but just hand tight on that shaft. You don't have to make it super tight. Alright, I'm going to put this all together and let's see what happens. One other thing worth mentioning is while you get it apart, clean up the O-ring. I put some preservative on there. I used Armor All. Don't use like oil or grease, because that might get into your water, the pool water. Really, ideally, some kind of silicone lubricant would be best. I don't have any handy, but the Armor All is good. And just make sure you clean all the dirt. Have a rag. You just clean all the dirt around where the O-ring goes. And if you can reuse the O-ring, it still holds water, just reuse it. You don't have to get a new one. Okay, I looked up the name of this front plate. It's called a VOLUTE, V-O-L-U-T-E. So that's what it is. And you want to, I got the bolts in finger tight, so the stainless steel bolts are in there finger tight before I put the wrench on them. Number 1/2-inch wrench. You want to tighten in, I don't know how much mechanical experience anyone may have viewing this, but you want to tighten down in alternate patterns. So like you start with this bolt, tighten it just a little bit, not all the way down. Then you go to the opposite bolt, which would be like down here. Then you tighten that one a little bit next. Then you go up here and tighten this one a little bit. Then you go to the opposite. So you keep working alternate sides to get a pattern to slowly tighten this on. You can see there's a gap here, but I hope as I tighten each of these bolts down incrementally, it'll snug up against that gasket and have a good seal. You want to be careful because these are metal bolts going into a plastic housing, and you don't want to crack that because the plastic will give way before the metal. Make sure you don't forget about your plug to put that back in later. If you forget, don't worry. If you forget this, you'll know right away you missed it when you turn the water on, because it'll come shooting out of there. And don't forget to put this cap on at the back when you're done. Really, you could almost do this whole project seriously. Like with this 1/2-inch wrench, I probably could have done everything. If I could have got this off by hand, you know, some pliers to help out here, but really I could have done this whole project with just this 1/2-inch wrench, I believe. So anyway, in the final stages here, I hope this works. Well, unfortunately, I don't think it worked. Even though the booster pump is running now, the cleaner's on, and it's not leaking, which is good, but I went over to the pool here, and sure enough, the cleaner is still stuck. It's not moving at all. And I went and took off the attachment on the wall there and put my hand up against it, and it's not, there's no pressure coming out, so most likely what happened is my temporary fix of the JB Weld did not hold. So I'll take the unit apart again and double check that, but that's probably what happened. So I basically have to wait for a new part replacement. So I failed in this project, unfortunately, but I learned a lot about the Polaris PB4-60 pump. And to wrap up this project, which is still not technically done yet, sure enough, I disassembled the booster pump again, the cleaner pump, and yeah, the glue, the JB Weld did not, there's a lot of torque on that shaft. I was hoping it would hold it on, but you can see where some of the JB Weld was there, and it just, yeah, the plastic part just tore right off that little knob. Can you see that in there? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the JB Weld just didn't hold. It's not, I gotta get a replacement part. So that's what I'll be getting, the correct impeller, not the old version. So again, if you have this newer model on the front, looks like this, you want this thin impeller. If someone ships you another one that's thicker, like the other one I showed you earlier in the video, that is the wrong size impeller. All right, I hope this was helpful. I know I really thought I would get this done, but apparently not. But I hope it was helpful.